You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. Hey everyone, I am so excited to introduce to you my next guest because she is the embodiment of main character energy, okay? She calls herself the Yoncé of the tech world, okay? So you know that it's going to be a powerful conversation. And I think what I love about this guest in particular is that she embodies what she talks about. So she's not just telling you all the things, she's actually being it. And I think that for me is always the key. And the guests that I bring into this show, especially, are that, you know, it's all about those in between moments that make us what we are, not just wearing a shiny badge. So I'd love to introduce to you Pearlé.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And I'd love for you to kind of, yeah, tell everyone what it is you do and also the movement that you're creating as well, because I know that you have your community that you're building and all these things. So please tell everyone what it is you're doing.
Yes, I guess by way of background, I'm a lawyer, so the 9 to 5 kind of world, in the corporate world, working in tech, and I guess landing the opportunities that I've had to be very bold and just like step into places that were not necessarily created for me, or honestly, I didn't even know what the blueprint was or the manual was, so I just had to like step into it and just build a plane while flying, to be honest. And I think a lot of people, especially women, struggle with that, where it's like they
Mm.
want to feel 100% ready. They want to feel like they have all the necessary tools and they need to like get another opportunity, start a new job, whatever that looks like. And so I guess the movement that I've been on for about five, and I would say maybe like actively 5 years, but inactively maybe 10 years since college,
Mm.
was just like recognizing that there is something about me, like, which is what I call like main character energy, where it's like I truly believe that my life is a movie. And so it's my job to like write the script, it's my job to create the chapters, it's my job to go with the in-between seasons. Like all the favorite movies that we have would always have the highs, the lows, it would have the epic ending. So I just always looked at life like, okay, like whether that's my career, whether that's my life, whatever that looks like, it's my job to craft the script. It's my job to step into whatever it is as the main character of my own story, because nobody else can write the stories that I've written, or nobody knows or has an idea, I guess, the lived experiences that I've had. So that's just kind of be my movement, just to like excite other people and be like, yeah, this is your story. Like whatever you decide to do, you can make it work for you. So that's kind of the energy that I love to bring to the table. And yeah, so far so good. I've been blessed to meet a lot of amazing women who are just like, oh, because of you, I've been able to do this. Because of you, I did that. And I'm just like, yeah, great. Like I'm so excited that you found that inner strength to go for what you want.
I love that so much. And I think when you were talking, like the underlying theme of everything you're saying is that radical accountability. You take radical accountability for your life. So instead of feeling like a victim when things are hard, you're like, no, this is part of the plot. You know, like this is all part
Exactly.
of it.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
it's something that I have learnt myself as well, because I think that obviously my childhood experiences were difficult. And so from a result of that, I lived in survival mode a lot of my life. And I was really heavily in a victim mentality because I didn't know any other way. So it was only when I started to do the healing work that I really started to take that radical accountability of my life and seeing my life as more of a movie and that I'm the main character. And I feel like my main character energy growing up was a projection. Now it really is that embodiment of that. And I think I saw a really great quote on TikTok a little while ago, and it said something like, when you zoom out and you're seeing yourself watching your own film, what would be the thing that you're shouting to the main character from your home to say, keep going, or you only need that bit, or why did you do that? You know, like, and I think about that all the time. I'm like, oh, I was like, maybe like this is the part of my story when I would be going, keep going, you can't see it, but it's just there, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I agree. Especially when you like rewatch really good movies and you already know how it ends. And you're just like, you're just like almost repeating it to yourself, like, I know how this ends. So like this character just needs to stick it out and it's just going to be amazing and stuff like that. So yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I love that. So I'd love for you to tell everyone a little bit of your background because obviously you've done loads of traveling for your work and all of the things. So yeah, if you want to kind of give us an overview of how you got to the UK, and probably a little bit deeper on your story as well.
Yeah, the UK. It's so funny. Like, I think from my accent, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're not British," and I'm like, I'm not. This is my second year in London, so so yeah, I'm Nigerian by birth. So I've lived in Nigeria for a couple of years, maybe 2 decades, and then I moved to California where I studied. I studied law there as well, and then I moved to Ireland as well for work, and then now I'm here in London. So it's definitely been a transcontinental life. And that's why I keep telling people that, like, yeah, like this is really a movie. And I remember, I think the part of the reason why I came up with the whole concept of main character energy was because I was telling someone recently, like, I think 2 years ago, about like all my moves and how I've just been moving around. And she's like, well, how are you able to do that? Just like pack up your life and just start all over again. And I remember just telling like the person, I was like, yeah, because I just see my life like a movie. Like in all the movies we've watched, we see how they get a new job or get a new opportunity. And they don't sit back and think to themselves, oh, how am I going to do it? They just go. Like, yeah, there's already a script and there's already how it's going to end. But there's just that initial, like, they just move. And that's why we love all these movies, like Emily in Paris, for example, right? She got a job, she moved to Paris, she didn't know a lick of French, but for some crazy reason, everybody just fell in love with her and like she just began to thrive where she had all these men falling for her without her trying. So just one of those things where I've just kind of like accepted like this is just really my life that I've just had to like move from one place to the other. And I think every single country that I've lived in has taught me so much about myself. Like things that I would not have known if I was just in one country. I've been able to like reinvent myself. I've been able to explore parts of myself that I was like, okay, this is actually doesn't favor me anymore. And so like a good example is how like in Nigeria, for example, like Nigeria really taught me how to be a hustler, for example. Like Nigeria, in so many ways, which is like my beloved country where I was born and raised, we don't have all the niceties that a lot of developed countries have, and that's just a fact, right? But growing up when I was in my early 20s, I had to make certain things work for me, right? I would go to international competition, and I think that's what gave me such a global view of the world, where it's like, yeah, I'm not just a local champion, the girl who's just killing it. I think Nigeria was that place where I learned to just like hustle for what I wanted. Like as young as 19, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to go for these competitions. I want to go for these certain things. And I was always in a very male-dominated space where everybody around me, my classmates were guys. And I'll probably just be the only girl just like doing that thing and like working hand in hand with them. And so Nigeria really taught me, just how to hustle, where it's like, don't take no for an answer, just keep going, whatever it is. And then like with California, it taught me what it means to be Black. And like I always talk about like when you're raised in an African household or when you're raised in the community, everybody looks like you don't think about these things. You don't think about what is Black or, everything that it comes with the women of color. Oh, that was not a thing because everybody around you is Black. So I think like going to California, that really taught me a lot about being a Black woman, what that looks like, being in white spaces, people who don't look like you. And initially it was hard because it was like, I'm not used to this. I grew up with everybody looking like me to a point where like now it's like I'm one. I have to look for another one, maybe in 100 other faces. And so I had to just learn to love myself even harder. I had to reinvent myself. I had to like untell stories where it's like, oh, just sit back and let people just do what they want to do. No, it's like, no, I'm gonna still show up. I'm still gonna put myself in those rooms, even though I don't look like you, even though I don't sound like you, whatever that looks like. So it definitely taught me how to just be a Black woman and just be unapologetic about it. And then like Ireland was definitely a lot because that was like my very proper first job where I was just like navigating a whole new industry. I was taking a huge leap of faith to move from law into tech. And I remember just thinking to myself, it's like, okay, I can do this. Like I've done this before. I've hustled. Again, just that whole, it was like a progression of like my character. and all the way to Ireland. And it's like, okay, I finally got my first job. I finally got my first big break, even though I've had jobs before. But it was just kind of like a testament of just like, again, just not giving up. Like, it's like, you know your path, you know what you want, you know the career that you want for yourself. And even you're getting 1,000 no's, all you need is just one yes. And eventually I got that one yes. And they're like, oh, by the way, we want to move you to Ireland. And I was like, wait, who lives in Ireland? And it just happened. And I eventually moved to Ireland. And then like London, as glamorous as it looks, like all these stories have been marred with a lot of pain, quite frankly. But I'm always so grateful for them because they're all lessons. Because moving to London was because I was laid off when I was in Ireland. I used to work for Twitter and everything just collapsed. Like I had the career, I had the life, I had the friends. My life was just thriving. I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Like I'm done. Like I'm gonna be in Ireland for a while. I'm gonna just settle in here, see what goes. And once again, the universe was like, we're gonna disrupt this one more time. Like we're gonna move you a few hours away. And yeah, it was hard. Like it was devastating to say the least. I think it took me about 9 months or so to finally get a job. And then when that finally happened, it was like, oh, by the way, this job is in London. Do you want to move to London? And I was just thinking to myself, you know what? Yeah, might as well. Like I've lived in other countries and this will not be the first time. And now here I am in London. And so that for me taught me just like resilience, where it's like, you're going to go through stuff. You're going to go through really hard times. You're going to wish this had never happened. You're going to bawl your eyes out in tears, but you just have to keep on going. And like, you just never know where that's going to lead you. So just like to your story where it's like telling the character to just keep on going, like that's the same thing I'll probably do to myself where it's like, keep on going because you're going to be in London soon. You're going to be in London soon. So yeah, that's kind of like been my experiences like across 4 countries. Because a lot of people being, oh yeah, she lived in 4 countries. She's so glamorous. She's so this. But I'm like, yeah, there's so much more to the glam. Like it looks glamorous and it is to some extent, but a lot of it was a lot of hard work that taught me some really hard truths. And I'm really glad that all of that happened because it just made me this holistic person that I am now.
Yeah, I love that so much. And thank you so much for sharing all of that because I know from just traveling in general and obviously having little bits of traveling for jobs that I've done through like a couple of months and things like that when I was a dancer, it is hard. And I think that when you're uprooting your whole life into a place, there's so much more to it. And especially like you said, as a woman of color, you've gone from being surrounded by everyone that looks like you to then these different environments where the culture is so different, the people are so different. There is so many other factors that you have to incorporate in. And I think that it's really important that you went into so much detail about that because I think, like you said, people see the outside and they think, oh, look at her living the dream. And it's like, actually, this dream comes with so many layers of responsibility, of transformation, of, really doing the inner work on yourself constantly to be able to build, like you said, that resilience and strength to say, yeah, I do deserve to be here and take up this space and own every part of my story. And I know that your story itself will inspire so many people to be like, yeah, do you know what? I can do it because she did it, And I think that that is really the thing about I like to call it cycle breakers. I mean, I'm not sure if your family have done a similar pattern to you or if you're the first, but I think from our story that we obviously spoke about it before prior, and you said that you've got quite a big family. So, are you the first to kind of do this type of pattern?
Um, I think to a large extent, yes. I mean, my siblings, for example, we all live in different countries right now. So from Nigeria, we have our own base. I have a brother in
Nice.
Canada, I have another brother in the US. But I will say that I'm the only one who has done all of this, a lot of this travel and move like 4 times over. And fun fact, I'm the only one, funny enough, with a Nigerian passport. So my other siblings actually have an American passport and a Canadian passport because my brother was born in the US. So literally, they should be the ones doing it because it's much easier, right? When you have a
Mm,
passport, you're able to apply to jobs easier, you get sponsored, you don't go through the whole immigration process. But for the life of me, even my parents actually have a green card. I'm the only one who has actually navigated all these countries on a Nigerian passport, meaning that it's been, twice as hard to do
mm.
what I've done. So yeah, back to your question, I genuinely feel like I'm like a cycle breaker in my family. Whether it's like in my immediate or extended family. And it does get me excited because, whenever I think of like my future family, like if I decide to have children, when I have children, like I'm like it fills me with so much pride because I know I'm going to pass this down to them. And like it's almost like giving them the wings to fly. Like, yeah, I ran, like my parents walked so that I could run, and now I'm running so they could fly. So I'm
Hmm.
just like super excited about that because I know that like when I do have children, it's like they're going to be so limitless. Like, there's nothing that is out of reach for them because for me, I was able to just like go across continents, boundaries, whatever it is that was keeping me back. So it's like, okay, now it's just going to be like so much easier for them. And it's like, oh, they want to do this. I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Like I've done one quarter of that. That's not a problem. So it's just really exciting to just even see. And even sometimes my cousins would be like, oh my God, like you're so cool, you're so inspiring. And you know when your younger cousin tells you you're cool, you know you're cool because they don't really be complimenting you that much. And so it's just like I find it, I'm like super grateful because like in my family there are a lot more boys than they are girls. So each family is just usually just one girl. I don't know. I think my family was overcompensating because most of my aunties, I have more aunties. So it's one of those things where it's like I'm like the first girl, like the first granddaughter in like my extended family. And to just see that I've been able to like stand in that gap where a lot of times it's usually the man who's like, oh,
Mm.
the older male cousin, the older uncle, or whatever that looks like in the male side of things. But to see that like I've been able to stand as like a matriarch, like, okay, yeah, like I'm able to do all these things and make all these decisions, and it has influenced the rest of my family members. It's yeah, so I'm very grateful for that because I know that it's not easy. It's a lot of responsibility as well. But I'm just glad that like at least my cousins can say, well, Pearlé is doing this, and my brothers can be like, oh yeah, she's doing this, and because of that, I'm able to do X, Y, Z. So for that, I am grateful to be a cycle breaker in my family.
Yeah, absolutely. And how wonderful as well to be able to do that and pave that way. And I think it's quite similarly, a lot of what you were saying there, I really resonate with myself, as in like the reason why I do what I do now is to show people that, this is possible for
Yeah,
you because of it. And I think, I didn't have that role model growing up to for anyone doing anything similar to me,
yeah.
and even the healing work and all of that stuff, like that's I'm sort of the first to lead that route as well. And again, as a byproduct of me doing this work, the people in my life have said to me, yeah, actually, because you've done this, you've taught me this. And that is just the most beautiful thing. And I loved how you came back round to passing that on to the next generation as well, because that's really important to me about creating a legacy. So yeah, I love how this intertwines it. And I find that a lot actually with the guests that I have on is because there's a golden thread in our lives, like there's a reason we do what we do and it's for a deeper purpose. And obviously the podcast is called Permission to Shine. So I'd love to know really like that. When was really the moment for you that you thought, I need to do more, I need to push more, I need to be more? What was that moment for you?
Wow. It's not a hard question, but it's just like I think there's so many like moments
Mm,
that has has happened. And I think like even just going all the way back to, like college, for example, I think that for me, which is something that I mentioned earlier, like when I was in Nigeria, like we didn't have the opportunities that people have or the resources that people have. I think someone asked me, she was like, what is what is the one thing that you enjoy about being in California? So this is when I was living in California. I'm like, what is it that you enjoy about being in Berkeley? And I said, it was so random because I replied, I was like, there's so many sockets, like everywhere I go, there's a socket to plug, to charge your phone. Like it was so crazy. Under every desk in class, there was always a socket. And she was shocked. She was like, wait, that's so random. And I'm like, yeah, because back home in Nigeria, a classroom would probably have one socket.
mm,
Meaning like a class of 100, 200 people are all trying to charge their laptops that are supposed to help them in class or, internet, whatever. So we have to get like an extension and to plug in and things like that. So that's just like shows you just how limited everything was. So it meant that like if you wanted to be average, that's quite okay. I mean, I don't even think that was even average. Like if you did well, like I think that was probably just like, yeah, because considering everything that's around you,
yeah.
you've done your very best, right? Um, but I think one of that light bulb moment was when I randomly signed up for this conference. We were supposed to volunteer to help them research. So I'd got into this like exclusive society. You know how colleges will have all these like
Hmm.
societies and everything, but this was like super exclusive. You had to go through a test, an interview to get in, and it was like for the law school to like represent the faculty for competition, whether it was local or international. So because we were just new joiners, they had access to like sign up to volunteer for a research for the competition. So we're not going to like go for the competition. We're going to just
Hmm.
research and help those who are going to go. So I'm just signing up for it. And I'm like, you know what? Might as well just do it. And months after, it turns out that we're no longer going to be the volunteers. We're going to actually compete. We're going to go for the competition. And this was going to be in DC. And this was my first time in years that I've actually ever left the country. And I remember just thinking to myself, I was like, wait, we're going to go to DC. So we had to fundraise. It wasn't easy. It was like someone just gave us money. I was like, oh yeah, go to DC. We had to fundraise. We had to do so much to get ourselves on that plane and into, DC. So I remember getting to DC, and I think that was it for me. That light bulb moment was like, this world is so big. Like, this is not,
Mm.
it doesn't end with just being like great in class and graduating. I was like, there was so much more. I went for a Embodied conference. I remember thinking to myself, I was like, this is where I'm going to shine. This is it. Like, I remember just thinking to myself, I was like, I'm not going back to just being an average law student who just like, gets good grades and that's it and hopes that I graduate and, complains when this doesn't work out. And so that for me was that moment where I was like, the world is so big and I want to be part of that world. Like I want to see myself as a global citizen. Like I don't want to just limit myself to the things of just Nigeria. And so that just became a continuous thread for me. Like all up to graduation, I was constantly going to competitions. I went to New York. I did everything, even brought the competition to Nigeria. We were like, okay, you know what? Since not everybody can make it to New York, all these places, why don't we host the first ever like competition, like bring this conference to Nigeria? So we ran it. And so now it's been running for 8 years now. Like it's almost going to a decade of doing that. But it all started with that moment of just like this is
Mm.
it. And so subsequently, the older I got, I just always rely on that fact of like, yeah, you were born to shine. Like you were born to be global. So why are you thinking local? Why are you thinking like, oh, this is not going to work out because XYZ or because you're a Nigerian or because you're a woman? I was just like, nope. I was like, no, I have the audacity of a white man at this point where it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna do it. Like, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And I think that was just one of those like pivotal moments. And I think like another one, like just like end the story was like I had gone for this is the same conference, but it's like you go as a delegate, the more you do the conference, you can actually apply to be staff. So it's like a whole progression, like people progress, and it's such a huge conference. And I remember I was progressing to become a staff at the conference. And so I remember like practicing, I studied up for the interviews, everything. And I get into the room, right? This is me. I had flown 22 hours from Nigeria all the way to New York, crazy layover, everything. I got there and there are over 100 white people in the room. I think I was probably the only black person. These people were from the best schools, the best colleges, and we're all interviewing for all these various staff positions. And so I get in and I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to get this job. Like, I was literally going to turn back. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go back to my hotel room, lie to my teammates, and be like, oh, yeah, I didn't get the job. Or, just even though they were all rooting for me because I had spent hours, days, weeks preparing for it. And before I turned back, I was like, wait, am I actually going to turn back after 22 hours of being on a very long flight? Am I really going to turn back? I don't even give myself a shot at this thing that I really want. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So I just stayed back in the room. I shut down all the single fears in my head. I was like, you know what? I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing. I've been practicing for this. And so I interviewed, and turns out I actually got the job for the
Yeah.
job, despite everything that was going through in my head. And I think that was just another moment of like, you know what? And I think I was probably like the first African to ever get that position in such an
Mm.
international conference. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, this is me giving myself permission to shine. Like, this is me not turning back and being like, oh, yeah, they are the ones who are better. They are the ones who are more qualified. No, I was like, yeah, I'm equally qualified. Like, I have what it takes. I've done the work, right? And so it's just moments like that where I remind myself and I remind people around me where it's like, you need to remember what you're worth. You need to remember the hard
Mm.
work you've put into yourself. Like nobody else is going to know the work you've put in. Nobody else is going to give you permission to shine. You have to give yourself permission because you've done the work. You know what you're about. And so in moments when like you doubt yourself, you have to go back and be like, okay, but I've done the work. So where is this coming from? Why am I not feeling like I'm adequate when I've done whatever it needs to be done to show up into the world. So I think that's something that for me were those key moments in my life that I'm just like, okay, I just have to keep showing up in my own world.
Yes, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. I was like, yes, 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 the whole story, like absolutely that. And I think that, what I love about your story and you as a person is that nothing was an obstacle. You were like, do you know what? These are the things, this is what's in front of me, but I'm willing to come in here and take up space and I'm going to do it my way. And I love the fact that you walked into that room and you saw that you look so different to everyone else there, and what could have been, like you said, a moment where you thought, no, it's not for me. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go for it, and I'm gonna show up, and I'm gonna be all of me. And I think that is such an important lesson because so many women have been taught that, that oh, it's all men. We'll hide, and then you add obviously the fact that you're a woman of color. You add that you might for someone else might not have had as much experience, and then we add these little things to make our case study load of reasons why we can't do it. But actually the flip of that is what you said, is that like, no, I am qualified, no, I do know what I'm talking about, no, I have practiced this, no, I did travel for 22 hours, I'm going to make it worth my time, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to just be my full self. And that's all we can ever be, even if you didn't get that job, you showed up, right? And I think that that's something that I just want to reiterate for the people listening, is that yes, we might not get everything that we put ourselves forward for, but the fact that you show up in that room and you take up that space, then next thing would probably have been it if it wasn't that then, right? But I think that that opportunity that you had was an amalgamation of all of the little increments you'd been doing. And they're not even little, they're big moves that you'd been making up until that point. But I love that you are limitless in how you move through life, which I think is just yeah, really inspiring, I think, for so many people to see that it doesn't matter what the obstacles are. You were like, no, I've come here to win. You will know my name by the end of it, and I will show you that. And I know that now, even from the work that you're doing with when you go in to do talks and things like that, because obviously, I see obviously on your socials about speaking to Gen Z and how you relate to them as well. Like I think that your whole like I said, the way you move through life is so innovative, which is really great because yeah, again, you're just doing it your way. And I think that's the most important thing that I want to get from this. And reflecting back to that main character energy thing, it's like you haven't chosen a character to be. You've not watched Emily in Paris and thought, I'm going to be Emily. You're like, no, no, I'm Pearlé and I'm doing it my way, right? That could be your slogan. Maybe that's
Honestly,
the under the film.
it really should be. But no, I agree. It's just being like limitless and innovative. I think a lot of times we're stuck in a box of like whatever
Mm,
society has put on us, or like whatever we've also come up with. Like sometimes we come up with these like constructions, like, oh, this is who I am. And so therefore I can't do
mm,
this. And I think for me, it's like, nope, I can be whatever I want to be, right? And I
yeah.
think like, to your point of the Gen Z audience, like I really could have gone on that stage and I could have just said, well, I'm a millennial and I'm just gonna do what I was told to do, which is just to, give a speech and be on a panel. But I was like, no, I have an audience. Like this is for them. Like I'm not doing this. I'm showing up for another set of people. And yeah, there are different demographics, psychographic from who I am, but that doesn't change anything. Like I'm
Mm,
just gonna go again, be limitless, understand their culture, understand how they move, and then adapt to it, right? And just like be in the room and enjoy myself because I could have given it to fear. Because yeah, I had practiced all up to that moment before I got on stage. And I kid you not, before I said what I said, I was gonna take it back. I was like, they're not gonna find this funny at all. They're gonna be like, who is this weirdo on stage? I was legit gonna take it back. I'm just like, let me just take it back. Let me just be like everybody else and be like, oh hi everyone, my name is Pearlé, just and end it there. But in a split second, I was like, you know what, just go for it. Like, what's worse gonna happen? Yeah, they don't laugh. That's fine. Like, it doesn't take anything out of you. But immediately I said it, and like immediately I introduced myself and I made it as fun as possible. They were just like, they just became at ease. They were just like
mm,
happy, excited, like, oh my gosh, who's this cool person on stage? And it was just great to just have this full conversation. Even when I got off stage, like they were all coming to me, asking me questions. They were just like really excited to be around me. And that's what I really wanted. I didn't want to show them about like I just had this like wall up on myself where everybody just thought, oh, she's this like, oh yeah, she's an expert. Like we don't even know how to approach her. And I was like, that's not why I'm here. Like if that was the case, I'll be in another conference, right? But I'm here to like engage with younger minds. So it was just really exciting that I actually took that leap of faith because that's what
Yeah.
it really was. Because I just wasn't sure. You know, like these Gen Z, if they don't like it, they don't like you. They don't hide it. They don't sugarcoat it. So I think to your point, it's just like being limitless and just innovating as I go. Like I'm not somebody who's going to be like, oh, maybe not. You know, I'm just like, yeah, just do it. So yeah.
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 Being all of you as well. Like that's such an important thing that I teach. But for anyone that doesn't follow on social media, can you just say what you said, like so people know what we're talking about here when you're saying like the thing that you came on stage and said?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So I went on stage and then like I basically said like two things. And like the first thing being, so I was like, oh, hi everyone. My name is Pearlé, like Beyonce. And so that was the first thing, which was like, again, scary, but that's how I normally introduce myself. Because I always tell myself, I was like, if you're gonna come up on stage, you need to be memorable. So I
Mm-hmm.
basically went with that. And then the second thing was that I had dressed up like Billie Eilish. So I was like, oh, hey everyone. I'm also dressed up, like Billie Eilish, and just like her, like AI isn't the bad guy, I am. So it was just basically, using her lyrics to describe what AI was. And like I said, I wasn't gonna say it. Like that line, I really was not gonna use it, but I was like, yeah, let me just go for it. And the whole crowd actually just burst out laughing. And it was just so exciting because I was like, oh my gosh, like y'all got the reference because I wasn't sure I was gonna get the reference or they'd be like, oh, this is so corny or I just maybe I botched the whole thing. So it was just really exciting because like throughout the whole like panel, I kept like leveraging so many pop culture moments, like
Mm.
so many things that they could relate to. And yeah, so that was pretty much it. Like I just kind of leaned into it and I think they just found it super exciting. I was like, oh my gosh, she's like so cool. And she also knows Billie Eilish too. So
Yeah, that's it, and relatable. Like this is the
yeah.
thing. Like I go into the secondary schools and I deliver my program, like mental health and wellbeing to girls in the secondary schools, and everyone's always like to me, "Oh my gosh, that's so intimidating." Rah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, I just meet them where they're at." And actually, I think that for you and I both in our own fields is that we know who we are, we know what we represent, and we know that no matter what, no one can take that from us. So I
Mhm.
think that when you just stand in that and make your jokes even if they're not funny. I always say to people any time I teach or do anything, I'm like, I will laugh at my own jokes. I was like, you don't have to laugh, but I will. And then that automatically just makes it more of a just
Yeah.
fun thing, right? Because then they can see that I take myself seriously, but I don't take life too seriously. And I think that's such an important part, isn't it, about what we're teaching? Like our stories have had their own layers of hardship, perseverance, resilience, but actually who we are now standing in front of, great audiences of people, we're like, we're here for a good time, right? And
Yeah.
actually I've learned that we're not here for a long time. So I think that to just go all in is just the best thing that we can do for anyone and anything. So I guess really what I'd love to know for you is like maybe three things that you would recommend to maybe the woman that's listening dreaming of more and not knowing how to move or what the first steps are. I'd love for you to give like your advice on that.
All right. I think the first thing I always say, and I say this to myself as well, so let her be that like, oh my gosh, like she has it all figured out and she knows what she's doing. I don't. Like literally 2, 3 weeks ago, I felt a bit of like, I guess it's like hormonal depression. So I was just really low and I just felt like I wasn't measuring up. I wasn't where I wanted to be. Like everything just didn't feel right. And then part of it was because I was comparing myself to every other person around me. And I just felt like I was moving the goalposts that I had already created for myself. So I think that's the first thing I always would tell anyone, and I'm telling myself, is know your goals, know what you want from life. Because
Mm,
sometimes, I remember listening to a podcast and it said that like, that your dreams are valid or that your dreams are true if that's something you've always wanted for like it has a validity of like 2, 5 years or more. Like if something is constantly in your head for year in, year out, then that's your dream. That's something you're supposed to go for. Because a lot of times it feels like society has told us what is supposed to be our dreams. Like
yeah.
this is supposed to be the goal. You're supposed to have 6 figures. You're supposed to be a homeowner. You're supposed to be a car owner. You're supposed to, and it's like, no, not really. Like sometimes you need to actually, criticize your thinking and be like, what is it that actually you want? Because until you
Mm,
clear to your soul, because there are gonna be such hard times. And so you need to be clear within yourself. Like, these are the goals that I have for myself and nothing else. Because that makes it easier for you. And when I was going through like the low period and I was speaking to my therapist, she was like, because I would always wake up and I'm like, what is this all for? Like, why did I even do all of this? Like, why did I leave my hometown? I could have just been, that's what I said, I could have just been an average lawyer, not average, but I could have been a lawyer doing great things. But, looking at it all, it's like, yeah, that's just where it is. I'll just have been a lawyer and that's it. Right. And then she kind of reframed it and she was like, what if you said, what is this all for? And be like, who is this all for? Right. And
Mm,
that for me was such a huge shift because I now started thinking for myself where it's like, who am I doing all of this for? And the first answer that came to my head was my inner child, my younger self, right?
mm,
I was 19. When I was even much younger, I had such big dreams for myself. Like I had seen myself as limitless. I had been in such certain rooms and I realized, yeah, there is so much more to life. And so just kind of going back to that goal where it's like, who are you doing all of this for? Because if you're doing this to impress other people, if you're doing this to be on some list, if you're doing this to have this amount of money or be on a certain follower account, whatever that looks like, you're gonna burn out. Like
yep.
it's not sustainable because everything changes. Like the goalposts will keep on moving. So
Mm,
if you go within yourself, and that's why it's like you need to go as far back as to your inner child because she knows. She knows what she wants because then there was no such thing as six figure, there was no such thing as Instagram. It was like society really wasn't doing the most that it is now, right? So it was very clear what she wanted. And so you need to like go way back and figure out what exactly that is. And then if possible, write it down. So at least whenever you're lost, you're just like, okay, this is what I want. And so for me, what I'm grateful that I did, I journaled, right? So I have journals going all the way back to when I was 15, actually 13. So, and I carry them with me, all my 4 countries. I have huge suitcases of all my journals. So anytime I feel really low, I actually go back to my journal and I go back to what I was thinking when I was much younger so that when I'm unclear about the world, I'm like, okay, you know what? What exactly is she saying? Because if she knows, like, she has more clarity than I do, right? Where it's like, okay, this is exactly what I see for my future, right? Because now I'm in her future, right? But she knew what she wanted. And so to the point where, like, when I was 20, I wrote a letter to my 30-year-old self that I eventually read last year. And so again, just going back to that whole like these are the goals that she wanted, right? Beyond everything else, beyond the noise. And so how am I able to achieve that goal, right? That's the competition. Because everyone's like, oh, I'm competing with the world, I'm comparing the world. No, competition is really just yourself, right? And I think that just kind of leads me to the second point where it's just like, if you're going to compete with anyone, compete with yourself, right? If last year you were, moving at a pace that is like, oh, I'm only just doing this and I'm only just doing my 9 to 5 and is that, and this year all of a sudden you're excited about new adventures, excited about life, then that's the competition. That means you've done better than who you were last year, right? That's your competition. That's who you're competing against, right? You're always trying to improve upon yourself. What's that one thing every single day that can make you feel better, that can actually get you to that goal? Because that's how you keep going. That's how you keep tracking your momentum. And I think the last thing is just like the power of one, because a lot of times we think it's the 1,000, it's the virality, it's the six figures, it's the big, the big, the big, but it's not. It's really not. Like all these experiences that I've told you is one moment, it's one person, it's one job. It's always been that one thing, despite the thousand rejections, the thousand noises, the thousand of this. It's always that one thing. And that's why these days I always just pray for my one moment. I always tell God, it's like, God, I just need to give me one moment. I don't even need much. I don't need anything else. I just need that one moment. I just need that one person to see me and be like, yeah, this is the person I actually want to collaborate with, and that's it. Like that's why all these main characters, the reason why we love them is because they always had that one shot, right? Michael Jordan, the greats, like let's remove all the movies, the Beyoncés of the world, they had that one shot and they took it, right? They didn't say, oh yeah, I had 1,000 shots. And it's always that one shot when it's like, the buzzer's about to go off, they make that one shot, they win, and everybody remembers that pivotal moment in their lives, right? And so I always tell people it's like you need to just look for the one. You need to just be fine with that one, right? You don't need 1,000 people to show up. You need one person to show up. And if that one person just happens to be you, then that's all. Let's be honest, like honestly, that's all because you just need to just show up. And if that one person is you, then you did show up, right? And so I always tell people that luck is not like, oh, you're just lucky, or I just have this big goal and it just happened. Luck is really just opportunity meets preparation. So if
mm-hmm.
you're prepared, you've done the work, you've put in the work, you've done the reading, you've passed the exams, whatever that looks like in your career, when the opportunity comes, you'll be ready, and that's where luck comes in. Like that's where everybody defines as lucky. Because I told her I was like, yeah, like if you think I'm lucky just by lucky, no, because whenever the opportunity came, I was prepared and I
Yeah.
just took it without second guessing. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do it. Right. So I
Mm,
tell people it's like you need to wait for that one moment, right? And everybody keeps saying, oh, my big break. But technically it's kind of similar where it's like you just need to be patient and enjoy those small moments because sometimes when we finally get to that big goal, it's not as exciting as like
mm.
it's like yeah, it's great, but the next one you're just like okay, okay, moving on. And so it's like why don't you just enjoy the small moments leading up to that, where it's like I'm just grateful, right? I'm grateful for every single moment that has gotten me to this point, right? And so I think just like to wrap it all up, it's just like know your goals. Like your competition really is yourself. Like at the end of the day, whoever you're comparing yourself with, they have their own lives, they have their own stories. It's not even close to yours. And like the last thing is just like wait for that one. Like don't be looking for the big numbers, whatever that looks like to you. Look out for that one opportunity, that one thing. And like if it's not only you, that one being just you showing up every single day, and that's all you need, quite frankly, to keep on going to achieve whatever goals that you have.
Yes, I loved all of that. And I'm nodding vigorously like a nodding dog because actually everything you said is what I say. So everything you've said,
Yeah,
if people listen to the podcast, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, Sherisse says this all the time." Even down to the journals, exactly the same thing, girl. I've got all of my journals from like my whole life. They've been
yeah,
there throughout the whole way. And something key that you said there, which I probably don't reiterate enough, is that power of one, like you just said. And that's what I said to you in when you was talking about actually getting that job, that even if you just showed up for that job and you didn't get it, the power was the fact that you showed up, right? So I think again it is that reminder because I think as cycle breakers, like we said, it can feel isolating at times. It can feel like the world's on our shoulders, right? But I think, like you said, that bigger purpose of why, doing it for your inner child, doing it for the next generation, like that is far richer than people online seeing it, right? And I think that this is something I've been really trying to reiterate through my content as well when I'm speaking to leaders in their field, because obviously I mentor women. And it is that reminder that it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about you. It matters what you think about you and the generation that you're inspiring or the people that you're inspiring. Is it coming from that real deep rooted place or is it just because you want to be seen? Because there's a very big
yeah,
difference, right? And that's what takes you from being the main character to being the villain, I guess, almost
yeah.
in and not in a good way, right? It's like that fickleness that we're talking about here, the depth of it, which I absolutely love. So thank you for sharing all of that. So I
Yeah.
guess if people want to find you or, join your community or whatever your next steps are, if you want to let us know how people can find you, and I'll pop all the links in the show notes as well.
Yeah, sure. So I guess in terms of like community, what I'm trying to create is just like a community of women or professionals in general in their 9 to 5. Because I feel like these days a lot of times the conversation is always around people who just quit their job and next thing you know they have 6 figures or something. And I'm just like, yeah, this is not real, but okay. And I think it's just being like a push to the point where like it's almost like we don't celebrate people who are actually in their jobs and thriving or actually want to thrive in a 9 to 5. Like I know some people, like I'm one of those people who is like, yeah, I do see myself being in my 9 to 5 to like my 40s, 50s. Like I enjoy working. Like if I keep moving around, if the job keeps moving me to different countries, who am I to complain? And I think there are a lot of people who feel the same way. And like now their question is, okay, how do I thrive? Like I don't want to be an influencer, but I do want to influence, right?
Mm,
And those are two different things, right? And so whether it's like being a thought leader, whether it's just like being an expert in your field, or just being so satisfied in your career that you're actually progressing, like you're taking the active steps to do what needs to be done. And so that has just kind of always been in the back of my mind. And that's something that I'm trying to create like from a community point of view. And so if anybody who's looking to like join, it's really just the Way community. So WAE and then the Way Collective. So on Instagram is the Way Collective. So WAE Collective. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, my personal account is Pearl Way. So Pearlé and then just Way 29. So Sherisse, obviously, you put in the show links. And I'm also active on LinkedIn. I feel like I love LinkedIn because it's giving me room to be so limitless where it's like okay, if this person is offering a job, I might as well reach out. Like I honestly don't fear people the way people say, oh my God, how did you reach out? How did you slide into their DMs? And I'm like, first of all, this is an online space, right? Meaning nobody's gonna attack you if you reach out to someone. The most they do is not respond. And that's like an advice to every woman listening to me, because I feel like a lot of times we miss out on the opportunities because we don't go out for them. Like we wait, oh, let
Yes.
come to me. Oh, let me just, oh, not me. Oh, no, no, no. I'm the reverse. I don't even wait. I just go. And it's like, okay, if this doesn't come to me, that's fine. Like, at least I reached out, I did the work, right? And I
Yes.
think LinkedIn has given me such power to do that, because it's like there is nobody on LinkedIn's green earth that I would not reach out to if I see there's an opportunity to be had there. So, again, and that's why it goes back to that power of one, where it's like, I've had people who have ignored me. I've had people who have actually just like literally from their messages, they've kind of like turned me down and made me feel like I was inferior. And that was fine. Like, did it suck? Of course. But there have been people, several of ones that have just gone out of their way to help me get the opportunity that I wanted. And that's why I'm in certain rooms that I'm in. That's why I'm on this podcast. That's why I'm in London, for example. And so for me, it's like if you're gonna do anything, if you're gonna be on any platform right now, I think LinkedIn is where it's at. But yeah, but that being said, I'm also on LinkedIn. So follow me. It's Pearlé Nwaezeigwe. So it's my name and my last name. And yeah, so if you do have questions, feel free to slide into my DMs. I'm somebody who is open to DMs because I'm always into people's DMs. So don't be afraid. Like I will give you the same empathy that I hope people would give to me. So feel free to slide into my DMs if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yes, I love that. And I'm the same as you, as in, like, I will put myself forward and say, hello,
Right.
you don't know me yet, but you will. I just
Exactly. Yeah. I
offer
know.
myself.
I
But
know, and
it's
sorry, I forgot to add. I also wrote a book. So in terms of like LinkedIn, because I feel like a lot of people reach out to me and it's like, oh my God, you're so good at networking and building your brand. So I was like, I'm just gonna write a book on it, like just like a whole, not necessarily a detailed like a book, but really just a guideline of this is how you go about LinkedIn. This is how you not necessarily only LinkedIn, but also offline, like when it comes to networking, when it comes to like showing up. And so I basically call it embrace the cringe, because it is so cringe and uncomfortable, right? And so, yeah, if anybody's also interested, I will send the link. So if you're interested in getting the book, it's amazing because it's literally my whole life experience since 2020 when I was like super active in the space. And everything I've learned from the disappointments to being blocked. I've been blocked, guys. Yes, I have, because I was such a pest, but that didn't stop me. I kept going. And this is where I'm at right now. So yeah, if anybody's interested and wants like a manual, yeah, that is a really good one to start with.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think that's going to be so key for a lot of women. You know, like I said about the tips at the
Mhm.
before we came into this section, I feel like that is going to be the blueprint. So if you are someone that's listening, thinking, I don't even know how to network, I'm scared, get that book, because Pearlé is an advocate of this. She is in every room, guys. Like honestly, if you watch her on her social, she is out and about living her life,
Yes.
sharing her knowledge, her wisdom. The end. Okay. If you're not in a room with Pearlé, you're not doing it right. Okay.
I know it's crazy. I'm everywhere these days. It's almost like I don't catch a break, but it's like, yeah, this is life that I chose, really and truly. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep kicking down doors until I finally get into the room that I'm supposed to be in. So yeah.
And I would actually say that you are in all the rooms you're supposed to be in. And I think that the more people that know about you, the more doors that open. And I feel like in my own way, I am doing the best I can in that space as well. So it's yeah, really wonderful to watch you flourish in your spaces, because I think when one woman wins, we all win. And I think that that's the inspiration, right, that we're here to create. So I love that. I guess really we'll round it up here, because I think that's been so insightful, and it really has been beautiful to hear your journey like in so much more depth, because I think that, as you said, I think a lot of people see strong, confident women from the outside, and they don't really get that inside view. And that's the whole reason why I create this podcast, for that reason, because, like a diamond shines because it was a rock and it went through so much to become that shiny thing. And I think that that is really what you are, and you shine from the inside, which is really beautiful. So to round off, I'd love for you to share um a soul to soul message. So, kind of what you feel like maybe someone needs to hear right now, something you might have said to your younger self, just whatever feels in alignment to, yeah, how you're feeling.
Yeah. Oh. I guess one of the quotes that I've had, well, I guess I'll say two quotes, and they're all from movies. So If you didn't catch it, I'm a movie nerd. Hence the whole main character. I love movies. I think movies was my way of like, I would say escapism, but it definitely opened my world when I was much younger.
Mm,
And I think the first one was from Mulan. And I think like it was like my duties to my heart. So every time like she, and if for anybody who's watched Mulan, it's such an inspirational movie of a girl who left her
mm,
hometown to go fight a war, instead of her dad, which was so male dominated, right? And it's actually a true story, to be fair. Like it's based on a Chinese character. So I think that has always been like one of my mantras. So to anybody doubting, overthinking, the path. It's like, what does your heart want? And at the end of the day, you have to go for what your heart wants because that's your duty. And at the end of the day, when we die and we leave this world, you're going to be judged based on that, which is your heart. Whatever it was that was planted in you, did you fulfill it? And the second thing is again from another movie which I watched when I was much younger, but I don't remember the name for the life of me, but it was a baseball movie. And it was never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. And so that for me is because, there are three strikes in a baseball game, and after that, you're out. And I think that's something that a lot of people are scared about. It's like, we don't want to feel, we don't want to feel, and we're so paralyzed in that. And so we just don't even get into the game. And so for me, it's like my constant mantra, like it's stuck on my walls in my apartment. Like I just remind myself, it's like, never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. So to any woman listening, it's like, put yourself in the game, put yourself in the arena. Like, yes, it might sting it if it doesn't work out, but imagine if it does, right? And you would always have the battle scars, you would always have the stories to tell. So it's like, and that leads me to like my last one, which is by Rihanna, which is like never a failure, always a lesson, right? So if you put yourself in the game, you struck out, you didn't win, it's not really a failure. It's just a lesson, right? You take it with you, you do better, and then you just keep going until you actually get it right. So yeah, those would be the things that I would leave anybody who is, thinking and who needs that, energy boost where it's like, just keep going, and whatever happens, keep staying in the game. And your duty really is to your heart.
I love that so much. And I love films too. And actually, I feel like that second quote is the one from, is it a Cinderella story? And she's in the calf, and then the dad passes away, and the stepmom covers the sign, and then it falls down, and then that's the quote on the side of the building. I'm sure it's that. If not,
Probably.
it's in that film as well,
Yeah,
because then
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first thing
yeah.
that jumped
I
into
don't
my
even
mind.
that all this while I would actually Google it and find out. But I just love the mystery of the fact that I don't know where that movie came from. It
Yeah.
always just stuck with me since I was a child. And so I've always just reminded myself of that.
Yeah.
Like, never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
No, absolutely. And I feel like I'm the same. There's been these little moments of my childhood that have connected me. And you actually said it earlier as well. Like I've got lots of Little Mermaid things because when I was in my real masculine phase, the only thing that I still had a connection to was Disney. So everyone bought me Little Mermaid stuff. But again, that knowing and that feeling of being something part of another world that was bigger than beyond what I was born into. I think that was always my inspiration too.
Yeah.
And the connection to Milan and all those beautiful things. But yeah, it really is, like everything that you're inspired by is now what you're inspiring to. So I think that it is such a beautiful full circle to see your journey, your perseverance, your resilience, and the fact that you are an embodiment of what you stand for, which I love so much. And that's, all the people that I connect with. There's this essence of that, which you can't make, you can't buy, you can't fake it's there or it's not, and it's something that you've built over time, and that really is your legacy. So thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey, your light with the world. And all of your details are going to be in the show notes for those of you listening. Please do reach out, drop her a message. I'm sure she's got some incredible advice for you on whatever it is that you need to know. And obviously if you are in a 9 to 5, join that community because we all need that dose of empowerment and inspiration all the time.
Definitely. Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful, like connecting with you and also meeting you was again once from an event, which I'm always outside. So it's always just good to like connect with such like-minded women. But yeah, like keep doing what you're doing. Honestly, it's just really exciting to just see so many women like us, just like take up space and also empower
Mm.
other women to do the same.
Yay, thank you.
If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow, and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you'll find out about all of my upcoming events and speaking opportunities and all of the things that I have going on. And also, if you would like to work with me, please do drop me a DM on any of my socials or through my website. Love and light.